Hi, everyone. Okay, so it is 8:30 and I do expect a couple of people will be joining late, including a couple of our presenters. So if when I call on them, they're not available, I will try to come back to them at a certain point. If I call on you and you're having technical difficulties, please just send me a text through the chat option and I will sort it out because I've become a Zoom IT support person. Anyway, welcome guys and ladies to our second virtual member meetup. We're expecting 150 people to come today. A few of you guys are already popping in with questions into the chat. I will, once I finish talking with you guys all, try to get to some of the answers. Again, we're going to be sending the record of this meeting to our network following the session. So again, if you guys are missing anything or you're coming in late or you have to leave, we will try to get this out to you guys by tomorrow, hopefully. Again, I'm gonna try to launch a poll. I think that because we have a couple of moderators on here, it's not gonna work. So I will try it once right now. And if it doesn't work, it's not gonna work. So it's gonna be a poll just to see where you guys are at with your training. So we'll try that next time. So for those of you guys who haven't met me, my name is Jennifer Huggins. And I guess I can't really say I recently took the position as president of Boxing Ontario. It happened in October. But I continue to develop as well and chair the Officials Commission, along with being the president of Boxing Ontario. I'm also a gym owner myself, and I've been working extremely hard to navigate this pandemic. I'm honored to have this opportunity to invest back into our sport, especially at this critical time. And as I said before, I'll be moderating this chat, the chat throughout the presentation today. So if you guys have any immediate questions, you can send them through and I will definitely be trying to answer them as we go. Also, again, if you missed it, we will be holding an open discussion session at the end of the presentation portion. So we expect the presentation to be about 1 hour. We're going to try to keep on time. That's why we are starting right now. So thank you for joining our second ever virtual members meetup for Boxing Ontario. Meetups like these are important for our boxing family as we move forward, and we're inspired by the number of members who continue to join us today. Today's situation has changed the way our world operates. It's had an incredible impact on our boxing community locally and across the globe. Though the majority of our clubs have reopened following the shutdown, there have been many gyms who have had to close their doors indefinitely. This is an incredibly sad situation. However, I'm confident that we're fighters. The boxing family is resilient and we're gonna work together to come back stronger. Meetups like this will be a good opportunity for us to support each other and help get the wheels turning for members to develop concepts, have discussions, and find solutions. Also to keep us inspired, which leads us into this meetup. The purpose of today's session will be to bring our Boxing Ontario family together and also to provide some very important updates and keep things moving forward as our entire province enters into phase 3. It's been a very busy 5 months since the declaration of this pandemic, and for Boxing Ontario, we've managed to successfully host our annual general meeting, countless return to training seminars, various committee meetups, and last weekend, we even launched our very first virtual level 1 officiating course with over 40 participants. We have a number of events coming up this month, so I'm just gonna share over to you guys right now with what's going on here. So it's important that you guys actually keep up to date with all of the events on Boxing Ontario. We're keeping up to date ourselves, making sure that anything officially through Boxing Ontario is launched through our website. Basically today is a town hall, so thanks for all of you guys who've made it on time for this meeting. On Saturday, August 15th and 16th, and I'll get Mike to, you guys can ask Mike later on about this, but there will be a live, actually in person, not virtual, finally, Introduction to Beginners Level 1 coaching course, and that's gonna be in Brantford. Saturday, August 23rd at 7 p.m. There's gonna be a sports psych, which I think Jill is gonna go over and give you guys a little bit more information about because that's pretty exciting as well. And for the coaches, all of you guys should be taking this. On Saturday, August 29th, the Female Development Committee will be hosting a member meetup for the Female Development Committee. On Sunday, August 30th, the refresher course for the officials, it's gonna be actually geared towards the referees, and Olga and Lila are working really hard to pull that together. So we will see you there for that. Any official level 1 in training, any official who's any level can come to that. And then on Saturday, September the 13th, the Female Development Committee is also hosting a the Way Forward, not Pay It Forward, though you should pay it forward, with the provinces, all of the provinces, or at least two of the very important provinces. We're all very important, of course, but we're going to be, Quebec and Ontario is going to come together, and we're going to talk with you guys a little bit about the way we're going to be moving forward. So again, there's going to be lots of events to be announced over the next few, I would say just keep your eye on the Boxing Ontario events page. And I'm just going to search in a second, but I'm just seeing people still join. Basically, today we pulled together some inspirational members of our boxing family who will share updates, suggestions, and resources to help with the ever-changing climate. Our presenters include international boxing coach and chair of the High Performance Committee, Jill Perry, Sid Vanderpool, who accompanies me on the board of directors of Boxing Ontario. He's also the chair of the coaching committee. And Fred Tenike, the secretary of Boxing Ontario and the chair of the KO COVID task force. I'm actually looking to see if Ariane is here. If you're here, Ariane, can you wave your hand? I know you probably should be. I'm just gonna try to search really quickly to find you in the chat. Sorry, guys. Hey, there she is. So before I'm going to switch it over to you just so people can look at you, Ariane. So our special guest, Ariane Fortin, and I'm pronouncing your name completely wrong because it's French. She's a two-time world boxing champion. She won silver in the middleweight category at the 2014 Commonwealth Games and a bronze medal at the 2015 Pan American Games right here in Toronto. She's a 2016 Rio Olympian, and now she's the newly elected president of Boxing Quebec. Actually, when she was announced as the province's undisputed choice for the position, she messaged me to tell me that she won by walkover. She's a boxer through and through, and one of the most humble people I've ever met in my life. So thank you so much, Ariane, for joining us today. I actually, we brought you on board because it'd be really cool to hear just from another perspective, I guess, from another province that's kind of struggling with all the same things that we are over here. Just kind of, I mean, you're our neighbor province. So what's kind of happening over there, and what level of, I guess, procedures are you guys in?
Sure. First, I'm so sorry that I'm late. I had an emergency. I'm in a chalet with my family, and I was with the kids, so really, really sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm going to try to make it quick. Actually, the situation here is not really good. The government allowed us on June 22nd to get back to training, but just individual training, nothing more. We're allowed to do pads, but with a mask and the shield only, since like maybe a week and a half. But aside from that, they didn't want to sit down with us. They didn't want to even, it's really sad, but like we all think all the combat sports are the only sport that aren't deconfined, that haven't got back to normal. So we put a lot of pressure in the right way, obviously, like in the media, saying that we want to just have a sit down with them, open the conversation, and that like nothing has moved for weeks. I know I asked Jen. Jen told me that you guys are allowed to do some techniques and sparring under some conditions. We can't do any of that, and we're actually really worried because the inscriptions in September, like a renewal of the membership, is for most federation it's around like 75% of the, well, it's a big income, let's say it like that. So we're worried that they're not going to move quick enough. The good news is that we finally had a meeting on August 11th with all the 6 combat sport federation of Quebec and public health. So we have a lot of hope in this meeting, and we're still like being like loud in a good way in the media to make sure that they send not just a nobody to this meeting, but someone who can actually make things move. So that's our situation. We're still working on that a lot. So you might see a few things in the social media and in the next day. We want to make like more noise to make sure that they don't send a nobody there at this meeting. So yeah, so I said it all. Like we have a lot of hope, and hopefully they're gonna at least allow us to do some technical training 2x2. It's unfortunate because I don't know, I had maybe pink glasses before, but I thought that people could see, like most of the population could, even if boxing is maybe has had a bad reputation in the past, we were past that, but I kind of have to say that we aren't, and they still have like a prejudice against combat sports. So hopefully we can change that when we sit with them.
So if we in Ontario see any posts coming from our Quebec friends about getting back into sport, then we should be sharing it and trying to support you guys.
Yeah, we started again with the 5 other combat sport federation. We started this campaign with the hashtag Mon Sport, Mon Combat. So my sport, my combat, my fight. So anything that's related to that, we put the French hashtag. So if you know some French, use Google Translate. If you want to participate or encourage your athletes to do so, that would be really appreciated.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the update. Yeah, we definitely want to try to support you guys. If we do by some chance, and again, I think Jill and Sid will be updating a little bit. If we are able to somehow in the near future do some sort of competition, will Quebec allow you to also come over here, your boxers come over here to do anything with us if we create a bubble?
The government couldn't, they couldn't say no. The only thing that I am worried about is that I would want our athletes to have at least 3 weeks of some kind of technical training, right? Because even if you're in good shape, you don't want to anyway, it would just make sense if they would have like a few weeks of training. It's the only like main thing that I would just not send them. Okay, guys, you can go have fun.
Same thing for us. Don't worry, we don't have anything planned 3 weeks away yet, but
Yeah.
just keep your ears open. We want to work with you guys, and I guess I'll be seeing you again on September 13th at the Female
Yes,
Development Committee.
absolutely. Yeah,
Awesome.
and I'm sure the coaches will all be open to go to a competition. Everybody's just waiting for that. So as soon as if you guys, is it on the way, like really to the organization, or you're waiting to see when, or?
Oh, we'll get to it. We'll get to it during the meeting today. We haven't, we don't have, we're going to try to update everybody and kind of also see where everybody's at. I think that a really important part of this picture is that not everybody's really comfortable with kind of taking steps, even if the government says, yeah, go run with it. So we just want to know that we can work with you, and we're really excited. Congratulations on the position, and can't wait to do so many things with you.
Thank you so much, guys. And again, I'm so sorry to be late. I'm usually not late at all, so my bad.
No worries. We'll see you very soon. Thank you so much, Ariane.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Awesome, guys. So we'll just move right along. I'm actually going to move it on to international boxing coach Jill Perry. She is the head of Beaver Boxing Club. She sits on the Ringside for Youth Committee, and she's the chair of the High Performance Committee. She holds the NCCP level 3, which is apparently very hard to get now, and she's a level 1 certified coach, which is also very hard to get right now. So Jill, I also muted you by accident. I'm sorry. I will bring it over to you, and you've got the floor.
Okay, I'm just getting myself set up here. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in on the call. I'm going to be talking tonight about one of the initiatives of the High Performance Committee, and that's Talent ID. This is a very important topic for us right now because of COVID. It's I guess you could say it's been an opportune it's given us an opportunity to actually work on a whole bunch of programs that will hopefully make our sport better and benefit our athletes. Oh, here, sorry, 1 second. I'm sorry, I just got a new laptop here. First world problem. So exactly what is Talent ID? And this little definition here is Talent ID are programs that are designed to identify young athletes with the potential for success at the senior levels. Talent ID programs connect athletes with training, development, and competitive opportunities that are designed to maximize an athlete's potential to achieve success. And I think what the direction that the High Performance Committee is taking is, instead of just having, our provincial champions getting the opportunities, we're going to try and open it up and create opportunities for people that are at different levels, different age groups, and different weight classes. So it's not always going to be the same people getting the opportunities, which I think is really important. So the Talent ID really does connect in with 3 of the other major initiatives that we're trying to work through this year. So talent ID is sort of at the root of it. And to me, it's the most important of all of the initiatives that we're working on, because that will determine who's going to be using our other programs. And those include athlete testing. So Socrates Celestial's leading that one. And athlete testing is essentially just the tracking and monitoring of an athlete's advancement, and so that you can be more targeted with your programming. So for instance, if you're trying to increase your strength, you may engage in a strength training program. You do some testing. After you've done your training, you do some testing and you see either it was effective or if it wasn't effective. If it was effective, it's like, okay, I'm onto something good here. Maybe I can make some adjustments to continue this advancement. So we're going to be working with the Canadian Sport Institute of Ontario to set up some formal testing, and those will be for a select group of athletes. But Socrates is also going to be creating a testing program that we can use as coaches within our clubs. So, you know, whether you're working with novice athletes or even more experienced athletes, they can run these testing. And we've kind of bantered around the idea of, you know, maybe we create, like, so say if we run a beep test, it's a very standardized test. Maybe we create a little competition on the Boxing Ontario website. So athletes from within different clubs can compete against each other. There's some prizes, but it's really just all about athlete development and encouraging smart training practices that will lead to better athletes. Another initiative that we're working on is creating a provincial level gold medal profile. Boxing Canada creates a gold medal profile. This is how they determine if athletes are on track for international success. So when you look at their gold medal profile for an athlete that they expect to do well, perform well at, say, a world championship, they're looking, this athlete would have, they'll know how many fights they would typically have. They would know their, you know, their, for every 10 wins, they have 1 loss. They know that their body fat percentage is a certain, within a certain range. They have, there's physical requirements of it. There's technical requirements. There's tracking your data as an athlete. So we're going to try and create something for a provincial level athlete. So this would be great for clubs to say, hey, they're a new athlete. You want to become a provincial champion, you aspire to become a national champion or an Olympian or go to a major games. Okay, here's where it all begins. You know, we're looking at provincial level athletes. If if you're in the men's category, the elite men's category, you're typically looking at athletes that have, say, 60 plus bouts. So that kind of gives you a marker of where you kind of need to go. And it's not always absolute. It's not always hard and fast on what it is, but it's based on, if you start to look across results, and when you're looking at, say, all of our provincial champions, there should be some data that you'd look at that would be common, and it would be like, okay, so this is what we're looking at. If you're going to be a provincial champion, this is what you're kind of looking to be. And then your next step, of course, would be trying to track to Boxing Canada's gold medal profile. Strategic event selection. So this is another initiative. Kyle Millett was leading this one, looking at just different opportunities outside of Ontario. And I will say this, I've had this conversation with Dan Trepanier, and he's like, one of the reasons we don't do a lot of, national team does nothing with our junior C athletes. It's because when we go to national championships, our athletes, the junior C level, a lot of them show up with less than 20 bouts, 15 bouts. It would be very hard to take those athletes to a competition in Europe where some of those kids are going to have over 100 bouts. Like, it's just, it's hard to compete against that. And the cost of that, it's not an effective development tool. So we need to start finding strategic events that we can send our different teams to. And we've been looking at some. There's some that are in New York State. There's some that we found in Dallas, Texas, which we won't obviously be going to right now because of COVID. The Golden Girl is a great tournament for females of all ages. Like, we could send a whole female team to Sweden for that event. It's a good tournament. It's good for our developing athletes. And there's usually one or two really good athletes in a weight class. So you get some decent competition. So maybe that's where the girls go. But one of the things we're going to be looking at is making sure that all of our athletes get an opportunity for an event, whether it be a junior C female or an elite male or a youth male or female, it doesn't matter. We're going to be looking for events. And that includes dual matches. I think we're going to try and take a bit more of the control on the dual matches. A lot of times, like the Irish teams are really great about wanting to come here, but then they bring these kids that are like 11 years old and they have 100 fights, and we just can't match that. So we need to be a little bit more strategic about who we're matching with for dual matches to make sure that we can get quality matches for our boxers that help them in their development. It's kind of like matching the right opportunity at the right time. There's no gain for overmatching a boxer. There's nothing to be gained from that. And if you're traveling, it gets really expensive and it's discouraging. So we're also going to be doing some things like training camps, maybe some going down to Montreal to the National Sport Institute and doing some sparring with them or doing a training camp there. So we're going to be looking at different opportunities for everyone. So how do I get identified? So we're going to be creating an online application, and it's going to be going out targeting for the end of August. The format is going to be somewhat closely related to Quest for Gold. So you'll be asked to supply information on your boxing record, because while that is not necessarily the end all be all of whether you're a good boxer or not, it's a starting point for us to help evaluate you. So we're going to have this online application that you can just send in your form. You'll need your record book, and there'll be a few questions that you have to answer. Athletes, definitely you should apply. Coaches, if you have an athlete you think that's talented, that you see, we see lots of athletes. Of course, all athletes want to believe themselves to be maybe high performance, but I think it's the coaches. We need to trust some of your judgment. If you're working with an athlete that you just think has something special, you should apply for them. And it doesn't matter whether they're novice or open class. So we are mostly looking at the junior C through elite division, and there will be, male and female, but we're looking at that group because that is the group that is probably the most interesting for us. Yes, you can apply if you're still novice. And I think that's one thing that's really interesting, and I don't want people to get discouraged from applying, is, you may have someone like a Mandy Bujold in your weight class and you think, well, there's no point in applying. But you know what? I think what's really important for us is that we need to have many athletes in a weight class, because it takes so much to develop an athlete. Time in the gym, years of competition, and refining our techniques. And we can't just focus on one athlete per weight class. And I know that's a real criticism that sometimes Boxing Canada takes, is that we're so focused on one athlete per weight class. And then when that athlete gets injured or retires, then we have nothing. And then we have like a gap in our development. And so we need to be developing multiple athletes per weight class. And there's no reason why in Ontario we can't do this. We're a big province. There's lots of competitive opportunities. And like I say, you know what? Maybe our provincial team is the ones that go to the international tournaments. But maybe it's like a boxer that didn't quite win the provincials, like they were close. Maybe they lost against the person that won. Maybe they're the one that goes to a sparring opportunity at the INS, or maybe they're the one that gets to do the dual match. So I think we have enough opportunities that we could spread things around and make sure everyone gets a chance to do something. I think for the high performance committee, it's so important for us to identify as many boxers as possible. So why should I apply? So the High Performance Committee, we're looking to provide development opportunities for as many of you as possible. And, you know, if there, you know, the more boxers there are, that's the more events we take on, or the more initiatives we take on. COVID permitting, these are some of the activities that we are envisioning. So international tournaments, dual matches, whether they be here in Ontario or abroad, training camps, opportunities to work with sports experts like a sports psychologist, or maybe some specialized training. There's the testing at the Canadian Sport Institute, sparring and special events or training opportunities at the INS. And this is the big one. It's national team evaluation event. And as all of you know, there is no national championship this year. It's been canceled. And Boxing Canada is considering doing an evaluation event. I don't have all the details on it. I don't really have any of the I know a little bit, but not that much. But if this happens, athletes from our province will be invited to attend an evaluation event. And that's, if you do well at that evaluation event, you could potentially earn a spot in the national program. So it's still very much up in the air whether this is even going to happen. I talked to Dan earlier this week, and a lot of question marks because of what's going on. There's more spikes going on across the country. So it may not happen, but I will say that they are looking to try and do something later this fall. So if you are a coach, make sure your athletes are training. If you are an athlete, make sure you're training, make sure you're in shape, because there will be opportunities coming up. We don't know when. And, you know, they may happen, they may not. That's, you know, COVID's going to do what COVID's going to do. So we just have to make sure that we're prepared for that. And it would be unlikely at the present moment for us to do an actual like provincial championship to determine who goes to this evaluation event. So this high performance identification talent ID could be a vehicle that gets used to determine who goes. And so it's not my first choice, but it may come to that if that's, you know, we certainly want to send as many athletes as we can if that's what it comes to. So just to recap, the High Performance Committee, we want to be able to create an open and fair talent ID program that's accessible to all our member athletes. We want to increase the number of opportunities available to our athletes, whether it be through competition or some development initiative. And most importantly, we want to increase the number of Ontario athletes on the national team. That's a big goal. We have been a very dominant province in the past, and it's kind of slipped a little bit, and it's time to get back up there and take over at least half of the team. So if you have questions about my presentation today, you can send them to hp@boxingontario.com, and one of our committee members will get back to you. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jen.
I'm going to keep you on for a second there, Jill.
Okay.
But you can end your screen share. Actually, I can do that for you. Okay, so we did have a couple of questions, and I think it's kind of important as well to let people know that the high performance does focus on the open class athletes and trying to get national team athletes. But I did have a couple of questions, and I'm going to guess this probably leads into our next speaker, which is Sid Vanderpool. But regarding the novice pathways, that would fall on the coaching committee, correct?
Yeah, we're not, I guess I'm saying that just because you're a novice athlete doesn't mean you shouldn't apply for talent ID, because maybe you've had 8 fights and you won them all and you stopped them. You know what? You could be an interesting person. You may not be chosen for the national team evaluation camp, but you could say be brought in for sparring for a training camp, or in a situation, maybe a dual match where there's another athlete that matches to your level. So I don't want to exclude them, because I think we need to try and identify them as early as possible.
That's perfect. So I think that that's a really, really good point. There is the upgrade opportunities. And if you are not familiar with upgrading, actually Jill and the high performance team has developed something that will be an upgrade form. Everything's going to be online. If it isn't yet, it'll be all online with the criteria very clear there, right, Jill?
Correct. Yeah, we've already written the new upgrade policy, and I just have to submit it to you guys. So that'll
Perfect.
in a week.
Oh, good. Okay. And then finally, I think pathway to being able to go through the application process, that will be happening online. But I think that another just came into my mind when I hear you talk, to access this information. I think that the line of communication, and correct me if I'm wrong, would go talk to, if you're an athlete, because there's a lot of, I'm looking at a lot of athletes on the call right now. If you're an athlete, talk to your coach. You have a team behind you, so talk to your coach. And if you're a coach, then at that point, they would talk to the high performance committee, correct?
Correct.
And if
But
they're
you know what? If you have a coach that's just like, maybe they're not computer savvy, or maybe they're just, busy person. A lot of people have busy, complicated lives right now. If you can't get the support of your coach, don't be afraid to come to us direct, And I want to say this is really important that we get people to apply, because with our quest for gold this year, we had 7 elite males apply. We only had 4 elite females apply. I had no youth female apply. And we had 4 junior male cards. I think we actually gave up some cards because we didn't have enough athletes applying. That's a travesty to me, So we need to make sure that our athletes are applying for this. And this is a great way for you to get eyes on you as an athlete. So I encourage everyone to apply.
Awesome. That's very, very good. So again, the application process, do keep your coach involved. If you are having problems with your coach, we don't want the athletes. I think what I was trying to get with that is we don't want the athletes to be working around their coaches, because that is your team. I think that once the application comes through, you do have to have a coach associated with that application. So the coach will get notified.
And we'll be fact checking all the, so if there's questionable submissions, we'll talk to their coach.
Awesome, guys. So hp@boxingontario.com. That is to get in touch with the high performance, division, the high performance commission or committee, sorry. And with that, then, and guys, if you have any, or ladies and gents, if you guys have any questions for Jill, even during this, you're sticking around, right, Jill, for the open discussion?
Yes, I will.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to bring it over to Sid Vanderpool, who's going to update you guys on the coaching committee. I know you guys have been really busy. You guys have been really busy, and you guys have also, this is the first time that we've ever had a commission, and it's definitely something that has been, I'd love to get some updates too, because it looks like you guys have been pretty busy with everything.
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Yeah, we've been busy, and yeah, it's great that we're actually able to follow Jill and the high performance committee, because they've set the bar really high. And wherever there are athletes, there's going to need to be coaches to support those athletes. And that's what our committee is all about, really. It's really about providing opportunities outside the NCCP to help our coaches develop and really be able to recognize trends and strategies that are being used around the world. Our coaching committee, on our committee, we have, and again, we've been meeting since the middle of March, so a little over more than 4 months, and we meet bi-weekly. So we've kind of got to know each other and be able to, again, like some of this has went a different path than I would have thought it went, but that's the great thing about having a committee and having different voices and from all around in different levels of coaches as well. So on our committee, we have myself, we have Horace Hunter, we have Peter Yanakouros, we have Natasha Spence, we have Mark Mercier, and Kelly Corcola. All right, so that makes up our coaching committee. And one of the things that we recognized, I recognized very early on through conversations, was that we need to change the culture within coaching. And what I mean by that is I was talking to the coaches about, what we were going to do. And there was all this reservation. I was like, why are you guys so reserved about what we're going to be doing? And it became clear to me that they were like, well, things don't get done. Like, we don't have any power. And I was like, no. We are the wheels of this machine. So like, there can be an engine, there can be a body, but like, the committee is the wheels. Like, we are the ones that bring things forward and actually bring them around to make them happen as well. So just, they were kind of like shocked, like, really, we do that? Because there is no provincial coach. There is no one person that is the provincial coach. We, the committee, we're the ones responsible for selecting the coaches to go to tournaments and different events and training camps, all those sorts of things. We will select coaches to go to on basis of development. So we can select coaches because we want to develop coaches, and then for like tournaments that like the Olympic trials and that sort of thing, we kind of have we're finishing up our selection process of how we're going to be able to select coaches for that. But it's not our job to be the coaches. We're the ones that develop the coaches and select the coaches and kind of provide training camps for the athletes. And so that was really a big shift for them to kind of wrap their head around. But I think now, after a few months, they kind of realized that, yeah, like we're only like 1 degree of separation between us and, making changes, when it comes to coaching and different policies and that sort of thing. So let me talk about some of the things we're doing. Like Jill was saying, we are creating a coaches to watch list. So coaches that are on the cusp or on the bubble, and we want to make sure they get opportunities to develop, because we are going to need, as the boxing level continues to increase, we need to also make sure our coaching levels increase. And that only comes from going to tournaments and being part of and learning from those experienced coaches. We have so many experienced coaches, and we want to make sure that as they're getting to go to tournaments, that we have people developing alongside them. So there's a whole wide range of coaches available to go to tournaments at any time. So we're developing a coaches to watch list. I spoke with Matt, and Matt is looking into some development programs surrounding periodization. And so we're hoping to have that ready to go in August. So some courses around periodization. That's, again, just to help coaches, continue to develop and grow with their knowledge. And then lastly, one of the things we were thinking about and working on is now we're working on, one of the things that was recognized was, and Jill kind of, hit on as well, is development of our youth boxers and just getting more experience with them, even if it's better sparring for our youth. And so we're going to have 3 sparring events each year and 2 training camps. So the sparring events, what the sparring events are, is it's going to be structured sparring. So the athletes and the coaches will register beforehand. They'll put in a database, how many fights do you have, what's your experience, and so forth and so forth. And so before an athlete comes to the sparring event, they will know, okay, we're going to be sparring so many rounds with this person. And then alongside that, we have technical. So we have, if you're not sparring, you're not just sitting around. You also have technical development as well in these sparring events. And that's going to be also a way for us to help develop coaches. And Jen also suggested that we look at also officials, which we are definitely going to do as well. So it's really going to be these sparring events will be able to help develop the coaches, the athletes, along with the high performance committee, and then also the officials along with the officials committee as well. So we're really looking forward to those. Like I said, we'll have 3 of those a year, and just make it consistent and something that people look forward to. And the other thing that we recognized was that some of the younger coaches or newer coaches don't have opportunities to mingle, to meet, to get experience from other coaches. And so those gives them an opportunity to now, because I mean, at tournaments, you know, coaches are usually like, okay, I've got my fighter, I'm focused on this, and this. And there's no chance to really be able to talk and share. And so this is an opportunity for some of the newer coaches. And we're going to encourage the more experienced coaches to kind of talk to the younger coaches and keep them in the loop so that way they can be around this sport. Because a lot of it is, being able to have a relationship with other people. And so if we can create that with these sparring events, I think that'll help keep the coaches in the sport longer. And if they're in the sport longer, we'll be able to help them develop along with the NCCP and what we're able to do outside of that. So those are some of the things we're working on with the coaches committee. We're excited again to see what happens. As far as the first sparring event, we are looking at something like in December. So that's a tentative date, and I've reached out to one venue in particular, and we're getting them a proposal to host it at their gym, which would be amazing. And so we have that in the works. And that's about all I have.
Awesome. Actually, I have a couple of questions for you, and Jill, you might be the one to weigh in on this one. So thank you so much for that update. And I think, Sid, from the sounds of it, to sum it up, the coaches, from the sounds of the first time, this is actually going back almost 2 years ago that we had a meetup with all of the coaches. They didn't feel included, and they didn't feel like, even if they weren't included, they didn't feel like they could access the information or even give ideas. So I think it sounds like we're going to basically unify between the coaches, the officials, the athletes, and just the board as well, to try to get things moving in a unified direction.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. Yeah, no, you're correct. And one of the things when I talk about the culture shifting is also understanding that we are here to help develop athletes. So we have our own, I mean, I'm a personal coach, and I want my athletes to win, but I also want Ontario athletes to do the best they can nationally and internationally. So we as coaches, if we start to take that and understand that all these athletes, they're all ours actually, and we all have vested interest in helping them do better, I think we're going to start to see some real dominance, like Jill said, at the national level and international level.
Amazing. So it's basically the pathway so that, you know, yes, we want to have the support of Boxing Canada, but also directly right here in Ontario, we can basically take our team international with, you know, our Ontario team. So that sounds really good. The question I had was about sports psych seminar. I think that one of you guys was going to bring that up.
Yeah, I forgot to. It's this August 23rd. And the office, we're working with the office. We're going to be developing an educational series. And the sports psych is the first topic that we're kicking off. So she's going to be addressing how you guys are managing anxiety during COVID, where we don't have clear direction on our future. You know, are we going to be fighting at the end of the year, next year? When's, you know, so she's going to help create some strategies to help you guys manage that, our athletes manage that. But there's also going to be topics in the educational series that are for coaches specifically. So we're trying to just, you know what, keep the learning momentum going.
Perfect. And actually, can athletes also take the sports psych?
This particular topic is for athletes.
Okay.
But coaches are welcome to sit in, because I think it's really important to help if you have an athlete that is, you know, has anxiety or stress, it's important that you're there to be able to help them. And so.
And does this give credits towards, so for the coaches who have the NCCP locker, will they get credits towards their coaching?
We are looking to see if we can get it as an NCCP credit, but you can still there's up to 3 credits a year on in your locker are self-development activities. So this would definitely apply for a self-development activity. So you would just go into your locker and you say, you know, I took this sports psych session, I sat in on it, it was an hour long, and you would get a credit.
Great. Okay. So and that means that athletes, if you guys don't have an NCCP locker yet, go ahead and create it. It doesn't cost anything to create. And it does develop a really good I guess, resume, for lack of a better term. And also coaches, it doesn't hurt to have that sport. Actually, it really helps to have that sports psychology on there.
Actually, Jen, can I just add, I know, and Sid, I think this goes over to your group, but for some of the coaching positions, we may ask to see your transcript. So you want to be doing self-development activities and making sure you log them, because it all shows up on your transcript, and then you can say, hey, look, I've done all these things, and there's the proof.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jill, and Sid, thank you so much for the updates. Adam Zudis, I just see you here, and I just wanted to get a quick hello, because Adam was on the is on the COVID task force. Just a quick update from the medical perspective before I put it over to Fred. I'm just asking to unmute you here. How are things going? It doesn't look like I can unmute you. Or do you have access to allow yourself to be unmuted? There you are.
Me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. How are things going over there in the medical field
world?
Yeah.
Well, I'm still at my office, so you could see, just swimmingly. So it's really, really busy. Things are picking up, and we're moving forward. So I can say probably for everybody as well, like, we've all never navigated a global pandemic. So I think as far as Ontario is going, we've actually done pretty well. I'm really proud of everybody on the COVID-19 task force, because they've really picked up a lot of my slack in the last little bit. I haven't had a whole lot of time to focus on boxing, because how rapidly things are sort of changing in the medical community and in hospital, how much is opening up. So I've been pretty swamped the last sort of 2 months or so. So we're moving obviously forward. We're in phase 3, which is one step closer to us. Not quite, I'm sure, I guess competitions aren't allowed where there's any sort of physical contact, but I'll let sort of Fred speak to the exact restrictions that are in place in Ontario with phase 3 for competitive sport. So yeah, it's an exciting time. I think things are starting to open up with the obvious look towards the horizon for possibly a second wave, but there's no crystal ball for this yet. So we just watch the numbers.
Have they come out with any kind of test that is going to be blood test in Canada yet, or is it still just the swab?
So the blood tests that are being offered right now are experimental, and they're starting to do them in hospital trials for patients that and healthcare workers that have had COVID-19. And also they're starting to look for volunteers for people who haven't had symptoms to see what the numbers might be like in the general population, but there's nothing yet being offered on a population scale for antibody testing yet.
Okay, well, hopefully you can keep us
soon.
updated
It'll
on
be
that.
soon, because I remember in March and April, we were talking about nasal swabs and barely anybody could get them. And now, how many thousands of people are getting tested every single day? Like, I get 70 COVID test results for my patients every single day. So everybody's getting tested now. So there's a lot of resources being devoted to getting the right tests out in a reasonable amount of time.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you for the update, Adam, and I can't wait to see you ringside. Actually, it's I don't know. Hopefully, Fred has some really great news for you guys all. Amazing. Well, thank you, Adam, for jumping on there randomly. I just saw you sitting there, and
I've been here the whole time. I know, working quietly.
No, I mean, thanks for coming on here and talking to everybody randomly. I didn't tell you that you were going to be saying anything, so I appreciate it. Awesome. So that brings us over to Fred Tenike, who has been leading the COVID task force and getting a lot of the clubs open during phase 2. I don't know exactly how many he was able to get running. I think it was around the 62 club mark. It might have been a little bit more. But I would like to pass it over to you. He's actually going to do some information now, but then obviously we're going to open things up for open discussion after. So if you guys have some questions, definitely hold on to them for the end of this session.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. And good to see you too, Adam. Sorry you're still working. Oh my goodness. Thanks for all you've done. Thanks to everybody for being here. I recognize names because of over the weeks taking this on. And everybody's saying, I'm leading, or I have to say, this is the group that has done a ton for us in the front, or in the back end, I guess I'll say, really behind the scenes. These are the people that brought all the recommendations to the board. Adam and our other doctors brought a ton of ideas, the science behind it, the medical information and all that. So the board of directors could make, I'll say, proper recommendations, decisions and stuff. And I still have to thank Francois. I know clubs were suffering and are still suffering financially, and himself and Gus actually worked to develop that. And there's some other ideas and stuff. One of the things, hearing Jill with the education, I think it's great. We kind of looked at, I think some of the other things in the future we're going to do is hopefully offer some, not necessarily business training, but adaptability for you all to run either yourself as a business or your club, so you could have weathered something like this again. So the group's there. I was doing all the approvals. The reason I chose to do that is discussion with the board. If somebody had to be that bad guy, at least it was the representative of the board. And also for continuity, Mike and I consistently did most of the webinars just to get the constant information across. So it wasn't that I'm trying to be in the spotlight. This has created a ton of work for me, but you know, I have to go back and even like thank Sid for the years ago when my daughter got to walk into the gym when she was a young champion, and now I get to participate. So you keep saying the young coaches. I'm old, but I'm new at coaching. So that's kind of where I'm at, and do that. So I don't have a ton of, I guess I'll say, new information for everybody, but what I want to do is just the history of how we got to where we are with Boxing Ontario. And I guess, and Sid said it well, we all, or you all, like the board of directors, none of us want to run this joint. We want you all to run it, and we just represent it. And I think that's the really good thing. So historically, you know, we still remember back, and I had to do some reflection yesterday because this week changed for me, but on May 18th was the first legislative amendment that allowed a PSO to open clubs basically for us. So May 18th, it's August, like the beginning week of August now, really. So the task force created a bunch of recommendations, like tons. You know, if you went through it, you had to jump through a million hoops, and I apologize to any of you who had to do it. But in the other hand, I don't, and you'll see why also. The recommendations went back and forth with the task force as a whole. We actually had a web meeting with all the doctors, and they asked some hard questions and had some hard comments to Jen and I specifically, which was awesome. Again, I'm a first responder in the healthcare field, but these gentlemen are such a resource for us. And the board of directors, I kind of leveraged it. It was an emergency meeting, and we worked into the night, and we did a couple edits right in front, and we passed the recommendations to allow boxing clubs to open under stage 2. The first club in the province was approved for June 2nd to open, and that was Border City. Prior to stage 3, which we actually have still area in stage 2 right now. Toronto finally got out of it. Congratulations for all of you. But there's still like Chatham-Kent area, it's my belief, I haven't looked at the news today, is still in stage 2. So if you're clubbed in there, you're still in stage 2 stuff. But we have 59 clubs that opened under the stage 2 guidelines in Ontario. And Jen was like shocked. I'm still not 100% sure how many clubs we have, because we have clubs in clubs, and a person is a club in certain things and stuff. So, but 59 clubs. So there's 59, I'll say, boxing businesses that maybe, I guess I'll say, aren't bleeding money as much, and they did it safely. So current information, I think, is, you know, where we're at now. So most of the area, I had it in highlighted, and Jill was editing her stuff when we were on, and I was hoping to edit it. I couldn't do this. It was going to say, as of this meeting, all areas are in Ontario stage 3. It's my belief we're still not, but most of Ontario is in stage 2. And I guess I'll say the good about this is it removes the requirement for Boxing Ontario to approve clubs for reopening as the PSO. But when I went on to the KO COVID email tonight, there was still 2 clubs saying, you know we can just open and follow the local guidelines and all that and do everything, but can you look this over and just give us an opinion? And like all of you who did submissions, you know, there was some back and forth, but you went well above and beyond the requirements. And I think the the aspect of showing the safety you all are concerned for yourself and your athletes and your business and the sport is amazing for that. So the recommendations now that came out currently, so you would have either gotten emails or a direction to kind of the website COVID page. We released recommendation documents now, not requirements. But in stage 3, if you read the framework for reopening and also the legislative amendment in stage 3, there's a means for actually reduced physical distancing. I don't like social distance as a term, like we're socializing right now, but physical distance of the 2 meters. So if you're doing personal training, there's no requirement for the physical distancing anymore, as long as there's built-in stuff. Well, Mike Williams and I kind of read into it, and we'll play back and forth with kind of, well, how do you read this? How do you read this? Well, if you're working with an athlete with a pad, is that personal training? No, but you're personally training them. So is it personal training? Sure. So there was that document was released for pad work. The recommendation being the ideal situation, and I think Dr. Z can attest to this, is both individuals should wear a face covering of some sort. At the very least, one person should, but in that documentation, it came out as it's a higher risk activity. It still comes with the pads have to be wiped down between any athlete, but it does give us that one step forward. You know, it's unfortunately what I heard with what's going on in Quebec and the cycle and the problems. I think if we can talk our athletes into being prepared before, like, and I heard it from some coaches where we have what I would consider very high level athletes who are massively off their fight weight as of last week or something, who aren't prepared at all, who aren't. If you have an athlete and we're getting emails at KO COVID, you know, how can we do sparring? And my first question is, why do you want to do sparring? Is your athlete at a level where sparring is going to make sense for them now? And in your, you know, periodization planning, what are you going to be doing sparring for? Because you're going to see the future. Right now, we're hoping to get some information about competition, or I know Sid and Jill said, you know, that October maybe open sparring and all that. I will probably put my foot in my mouth, and you guys might hate me for this. I think it might be few and far between we're going to see any contact sport competition this year. If you look at what's happening in baseball, that professional sport is probably going to be shut down soon in the States because they just destroyed the aspect. We have some ideas for that. We have read into it, and the Ontario government put out an idea of social circles where you can actually do sparring if you so choose. A social circle is allowed by the government of Ontario in all their documentation for a maximum of 10 people. So we had a lot of people questioning, well, social circle, so I have 10 athletes. No, I see some of you sitting at a computer and there's 2 of you there. So whoever's in your house is already in your social circle. It's somebody who you're having close non-protected contact with all the time. So anybody you're living with. So I used the analogy, and I used Danielle, my daughter, as a key example. So she lives in this house with my wife, Monique, and I. So her social circle right away has 3 people in it. And then if she doesn't at the moment, I don't think again, but if she were to have a boyfriend right now, that's going to be 4 people. So then if you take, and we use Caitlin at Cage Dragon to spar with, Caitlin lives with her mom and her dad. That's a social circle of 7 people right away. Okay. And if Caitlin were to have a partner, a boyfriend or whatever, that's 8 people right away. Plus you lump in maybe their parents. All of a sudden you're in a group of 10 without a problem. Okay. So all of you that are kind of coming, well, how can we do this? How can we do that? It's the big picture. And I use the analogy today in a first aid class. I haven't taught a first aid class in the real world in 141 days till yesterday. And I use the analogy of the social circle because these guys were talking about it. They're going to be doing a construction thing. It goes back to the old public health thing of, remember, and some of you are way too young for this, but I'm old, when they started having HIV or the AIDS talk, and it's you have unprotected sex with everybody they've had sex with and all that. That's how you think of it now. So the social circle is everybody this person is close intimate or close contact unprotected with, you are now at risk of doing that. And there's some really interesting scale diagrams on the internet to show how this affects. But the biggest thing that happens is just look at your Zoom screen right now. Picture whoever's in front in the middle. All of you touching that one person in the middle, that's the social circle. But then if you're touching them, you're actually all touching. So it's the 6 degrees of separation. Okay. And that's, I think, what our doctors are worried about and public health is worried about. My thing, and I mean this in a nice way, but I'm a firefighter. The reason I have a career is the general population of humans as animals are dumb. Okay. And if you don't believe, and I see people nodding, if you don't believe that, ask your dog if they want to go into a ring and do a dog fight. No dog's going to want to do that, but some of you guys decide to do that for a living. You know, get punched in the face seems like a bad idea to people, but you love it. You know, I don't think I could do it. So I guess I'll say the good right now. So currently to date, we have no cases or outbreaks, and outbreaks is what a public health term is being used now. And I find it really weird because in my region, I'm a designated officer. Again, maybe Adam, you can comment or you find it weird too. And my wife as a nurse find it's weird. An outbreak means in a nursing home, retirement home, hospital, or anything, one person has the virus. That's an outbreak. And that's not what I've always pictured it as. But we've had no cases reported or outbreaks of COVID-19 within or due to Boxing Ontario clubs. So since really June 2nd till now, with 59 clubs, none of you have identified this, and you all had tons of planning and that built in for safety. So I think that's huge applauding to you all. And then I will say currently, we've had some people bring forward complaints and say, well, this gym's not doing the right thing and this gym's not doing the right thing. I would say from what I've heard, nobody's ever 100% been above board following the rules of amateur boxing in Ontario in their club. And it's a risk you're going to take on. We as COVID task force with the Boxing Ontario directors and everybody, you know, covered our butts. But you must be doing something pretty darn good if we haven't had, like if you have 50 people a week or 100 people a week, or now you could get 10 people a day easily, 5 classes and all this, and nobody's getting ill from this, we must be doing something not too bad. So congratulations to you all. So going back again, and we talked about this, I do have an understanding of, you know, business issues or potential problems and that this is caused for you all. We don't have huge solutions yet, but I think the realization that we still are there to support this. The task force is not going to go away until the virus were to go away or it's really stabilized out. So I think it's going to be quite some time still. If you don't have the email by now, there it is. There are still active business supports and different ideas, I think, that came out from the business people in the task force. So where are we going in the future? And you'll notice the last point isn't what you want to hear. It's not returning to competition. We're still planning for it. So we're still monitoring the Ontario situation. I see emails from people all the time saying about this going on or this going on. And I've got a really good advantage, I guess I'll say, working locally with our public health. We have had up and down case, no case for a while in the region of Waterloo. My wife works in the hospital setting, so she kind of pokes at me information that's good and bad. And our doctors, like Adam's always been forward with, you can email me. And then I see him working in his office at 10 o'clock at night still, so I don't want to bug him. And these guys all work, like they're all volunteering too, okay? We're still trying to provide support to all of you. Again, 2 clubs could have opened under stage 3 as today, and they just emailed and said, can you look this over and see if it makes sense to you? And I'm like, yeah. I'm still a direct ear with the board of directors. Sid and Jen have a real vested interest in this because they own clubs. Mike, from the point of view of working in the club, he's made a legitimate decision still for good reasons, I think, not to necessarily open. Lee is in a club and as a official also. So you've got a good people group there. I'm kind of that outsider where at the end of the day, if I think something's bad, I don't have a bad thing to, a thing to say where it's like, no, this isn't right. We got to shut down for safety. Return to competition. So I will say Matt Kennedy, under the direction, is working with a lot or most of the combat PSOs in Ontario to do a joint submission to the government, so that there's kind of a unilateral approach, which you heard from the Quebec side. But I know Mike and I also have sat down, and I don't think it would be hard to plan for somewhat of a competition that's controlled by Boxing Ontario. You can't really call it a full tournament and stuff like that, but there's going to have to be a big commitment from athletes, coaches, officials, and all that. And just an envisionment I have quick in my eyes, it's like you're going to be like the Maple Leafs and all the stuff going on in Toronto now. You guys are going to go and say to the Dawn Hotel, you're going to check in Thursday. We're going to bug public health there, as Dr. Adams said, and we're going to get you all COVID tested. You get locked in the hotel in that bubble until you're done all the stuff on Sunday, and you walk away. Ideally, it'd be 2 rings, no real spectators and all this. And there is now on the website, and I'll tell you all this from the business side, on the government website for COVID, if you can't accomplish everything you want, you can write an email to them and they look at a plan you develop and give you the thumbs up or thumbs down. So we haven't gone that far yet. The big thing, we wanted to see what's going on with the stage 3. I kind of have some information, and Adam did allude to it and everything. Stage 3 is probably going to be a big, long time now. And I will tell you, because people said, well, when's stage 4 coming? There is no stage 4. When stage 3 is done, it'll be back to normalcy in this province. And, you know, the Quebec idea, we've heard off the record, or I guess on the record, there will be no combat sports competitions in the province of Quebec until a vaccine is developed. The government hasn't said that here. We would have to come up with a plan for it. So that is kind of where we're at now with COVID. Really flip back to a less front load work and more support for you all. And then, you know, Jen said we're going to put this at the end because she has to go off, and Mike and I are going to do the question and answer stuff. And this could have raised the hugest question stuff. And Adam, if you're not going to bounce your head off the table falling asleep yet, if there's any big medical stuff more, if you can take that on, it sounds more professional from a doctor than a silly firefighter, I always say. But that's kind of where we're at, everyone. So you can do pad work. You can do social circling. We are not directing how to do it. There is no approval from Boxing Ontario, but I will tell you, and I think Lee, you could attest to this from the liability side, is she's kind of the awesome person for that in our board of directors, is keeping us thinking that way. If you start to do something wrong or outside the norm, your butt is going to be in the sling. Okay. And if you're not sure, reach out to us in the task force, and I'm willing to bend the rules, but let's not screw around and break anything. Okay.
So Fred, I'm just going to cut in,
yeah.
just because I know some people really are hanging on. I know that you guys have
Yep.
until 9:30, some of you guys. Just to close things up on that end, because I'm going to get you to do a discussion. There's a few questions coming in regarding, I guess, how we can possibly go about doing a competition or a tournament or a test event outside of Toronto area, all these different questions. I think that, guys, stick around, and I think that these are good questions and discussions to have. At this point right now, exactly what Fred just summed up, the idea of doing pad work. I know I haven't started pad work at our gym yet. Not everybody's comfortable. That includes our coaches. So it's not something you have to do. We're happy. We don't want to mess something up that's working. We don't want to break something that's not broken yet. No. So let's be safe. Let's be careful. The one thing I can say to something you said, Fred, was you're getting a lot of, and I'm getting a lot of messages too, people saying, oh, hey, you know, this club's not doing that right, or, you know, that coach is doing something wrong. We're adults. I really hope that people are doing things wrong by accident. So before you take the step of telling on them, first step I want you guys to do is please talk to each other, educate each other. There's something horrible that happened last week. It was an illegal fight that happened in Mississauga last week. They got headgear, they got gloves, they had stuff from boxing clubs. To me, that tells me that somebody from boxing must have known this was happening, even if it was just an athlete. So get your athletes, get your coaches, get your friends, get your family, educate them, and make sure they know why the safety protocols are there and what we're trying to protect, not just the sport from, but the athletes in the community from. You know, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we fought so hard to get you guys to open up, to get us to open up, to get clubs back in operation. Don't mess this up. So help each other. And then if there is someone who's blatantly going against the rules, we do need to know, absolutely. If someone's gone against the rules and you've talked to them, you still probably might want to let them know, either reach out or you should reach out and let us know so that we can help follow up with it. But again, I've always said this, we're not the police. You guys need to educate each other and continue the education to the community, because you've got people who are not Boxing Ontario members doing crazy things right now that is going to get not just Boxing Ontario shut down, but it'll get the community shut back down and put us back into phase 1. So, or back into shutdown.
Yeah, you'll get locked down. And Premier Ford has been adamant saying and he picks on Toronto pretty heavily for living there, but he's like, he says yahoos, like crazy people, they will shut us down again. And I'm a firm believer, if you're looking at how the States is going, California is the worst case scenario. Everything was going, okay. So they opened up really wacko, and now they're closing back down. I always said, it's like, great, you're not grounded this weekend, but you did something stupid, so you're grounded again. Good work. Like, yeah, if we all can play the game well, when will there be a competition? I hope that amateur boxing is the first competition in this province, and I think we could do it.
Awesome. Okay, well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass over the hosting to Mike Williamson.
Yep.
I really appreciate all of you guys' time. I see that most of you guys stuck around right to the end, so I know that's a long meeting. If you guys can stick around, if you guys have some questions, comments, even suggestions on direction to push things, we're trying to be, I guess, a mouthpiece on behalf of you guys as well with the government. So please speak up now, share the information with the entire team, and thank you guys all for your support with getting to where we are right now. And be safe, and we'll see you guys hopefully in a boxing ring sometime soon.
Yeah, and if anybody is getting off, make sure you are safe, and thanks so much for tonight.
Awesome. So I've switched over Mike now to the host, and take it away, Mike. And if you guys have questions, go for it.
Well, there's a couple things just to touch on about the COVID and the different stages. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is we pushed the government, and that's why that amendment came out. And when the government allowed the PSOs to open, the difference between stage 1 and 2 and then stage 3 was that the onus was on Boxing Ontario to give permission to the gyms to open. When stage 3 came, now that's the government. The government said, okay, training can open, and it falls under the government. So there was actually quite a bit of risk that fell onto the organization through stage 1 and 2, which is why, I mean, hats off to the team that, Fred and the committee and the doctors. I mean, they did great, but they were very thorough, and but that's why, like I said, the onus went from us back to the government, which makes it a lot easier for phase 3.
Well, I would say actually phase 3, the onus goes back on the clubs now, because if they're not doing something right, they're going to get in trouble.
Permission from the government now, but
yes,
the government gave us permission to allow gyms to open, so the really came on us. So we did take a bit of a risk. We did push. I'll touch on just a couple things that they were bringing up. The team is putting together, and Matt's been dealing with the ministry and the other sporting organizations, the other combat organizations, with new standards of what it's going to take to run a competition. As they said, completely separate of that, we're trying to lead the way a little bit, and we're trying to hold a one-off competition. And this is what Fred was touching on. We're hoping to be able to do testing and quarantine same day. I think for the safety of our athletes, we just from some discussion of it, because of the training levels everyone's going to be at, we might look towards exhibitions. But it would be something to get as many people active as possible. And the other thing that a lot of you have probably heard, if you went through the seminars that I was part of, we're working on a pay-per-view system as well, so that when we are able to hold competition, good chance we're not going to open up and you're going to be able to reach your maximum capacity. So not as a way to replace the crowd that comes, but just as a bit of a supplement or a supplemental income. If you've got half the crowd in there now, we should be able to like I said, a bit of a pay-per-view system, whether it be $5, whatever. You would pay a small fee and be able to watch the fight, say on YouTube or something. So if Joe Perry's holding a show in Ottawa and I can't drive out there to see it because it's too far a drive, I'm going to buy it and watch it on YouTube. So there's still going to be a way that we can all come together and support each other. When they talked about last thing, I just wanted to add two things. When they talked about about how the committee came together with all that information for COVID, just to give you guys an idea of you know how impressive that is. 7 other PSOs took the seminar. 7 other PSOs before they were able to do anything. Some of those PSOs are still closed, but they took, like, I think even tennis took it at one point. But we had multiple PSOs take our seminar just to give them an idea of which direction to go in. So I mean, you know, good credit to that committee. Other than that, the only other thing I wanted to add, and I mentioned this in a few of the seminars we did as well, we were working towards, before I got on the board, I was on a few of the committees, and I was on the high performance committee with Jill, and it was difficult sometimes to get things going just because of the way the responsibilities and things were laid out. So we kind of reformatted the committees with a goal of putting everything back into the members' hands. So when Sid was talking about getting the coaches to join in and put their voice in, it really is that way. We want you guys to make all the decisions. We're looking at one other opportunity that I was going to be dumping on Jill, and I should say that basically Sid and Jill would end up having it, the 2 committees, the high performance committee and Sid's coaching committee. We had roughly 5 countries organized to come here for one of our tournaments that was coming up, for a tournament that we were revamping in June. Obviously with COVID, it's been canceled, but and maybe I'm jumping the gun, but it's kind of nice to pass it on so everyone understands some of the progress we were trying to make. That would have put us in a position to send 5 different teams out for trips that are paid for our athletes. So the high performance committee would have selected teams, and like Jill said, it wouldn't be the same team every time. So any athlete is going to have an opportunity here, all different levels of experience. And you know, if this COVID gets out of the way and we get things going again, there's no reason we can't pick up right where we were. We had everything organized, and that means, like I said, some of these trips are going to be paid for athletes to be able to travel. Like I said, 5 other countries where these competitions would have happened. So there's definitely some opportunities out there.
So really it's so we kind of envision now, like, not open mic, because there is still 50 of you on here, and that's pretty awesome for this late in the evening. But if you have any questions, if you can type in the chat, just that you have a question, Mike as the host will actually find you and unmute you, because we find that somebody typing and then it's the telephone game. Or if you can't do it in the chat, just wave your hands crazy and he'll see you hopefully and unmute you, or I will. So Glenn's got a question. He's waving his hands crazy. So that's kind of what we're here for. It's a general question and answer. It's not just for COVID. There's lots of stuff in the works. We are still doing to try and move forward with Boxing Ontario. The next time we're going to have a big overall meeting, I would guess. We're planning our next AGM, because the last one we had was like delayed a little because of COVID. We were supposed to have it before. So this is our proper one, and we're looking into September, October, I believe, and there'll be some more information and stuff there also, but plan into there and keep an eye out for the AGM. It'll be, I'm pretty sure, 100% web-based again, and it should be better than last time even, just because we won't be able to have groups together or anything like that. But yeah, if you have anything, throw out questions and answers between Lee, Sid, Mike, and myself, and we'll try and answer what we can, or we'll throw it on to the experts, be it a doctor, Jill, committee members, anything like that. So what do you guys got? And if there's nothing, we all can leave. Oh no, can you see Glenn, Mike?
Yeah, I've actually.
Oh, you unmuted him. So Glenn, you're open.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hi guys. Thanks again for all the work and effort. Fred, I'm still a little uncertain as to the circle that we're talking about for sparring.
Yep.
So I haven't opened up the gym yet. I've been working